Så er vi ved at være klar med Sascha, der vil fortælle om noget ny teknologi, HTML.
Okay, jeg tager den på engelsk. I take it in English because we are recording it on video, and I think I have made some discoveries or things I think that could be used later on, or I would send a mail to the guy who invented HTMX, some tips and so on, which I haven't seen so much in that direction. So that's why I take it in English here. So yes, HTMX to the rescue, fundamental change in single web application development. Yeah, who will win? Oh, Fleming has already gone. I think that would have been like my primary goal also to target here. Well, let's start about me. Yes, I was here for half a year ago talking about HSM. Now I talk about HTMX, so it's everything about the H here. I'm an IT freelancer. I call myself a multi-hat consultant because it's security and all kinds of other stuff. But yeah, security has been the stuff I've been doing the last few years and so on. So since 1995, okay, I thought 96. Yeah, I've done a lot of full software development, test release operations, blah, 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 blah. And the last few years, a lot of security and compliance. So what brings me to do front-end development? Well, yeah, I volunteered for this one here because some months ago I was talking to Lund&Bendsen and I said, have a look at HTMX. That is something very, very, very new and special, and it's going to be a big trend. And they say, okay, yeah, well, and then the guy here from Danske Bank said the same thing to Lund&Bendsen and so on, and suddenly it became a trend. When two persons are talking about it, it's more than one, it's a double up. And yeah, it's going to be a new trend in single page application development, at least from my point of view. So I volunteered as a lab rat. I have my special abilities are I'm a curious person and I'm totally disqualified to be a front-end developer like Angular and all these kind of and React and what they're called these systems. So I'm a total noob on that. But I have always had that dream of making my own little single-page application, my little SPA. And I have a lot of ideas, and now I can start with my ideas and so on. And I can't start very fast with these ideas without learning React, Angular, blah, blah, blah. So I've always procrastinated learning all these React and other frameworks. Luckily for me, because now I don't need to learn them. So just to start here, there are some disclaimers, like I will be very biased, and that's probably you will meet when you talk to people having met HTMX and so on. So my first disclaimers are my practical Java experience, that I have never written a line of JavaScript for any paying client ever, which is a big thing I'm proud of. But I had my hardest client I ever wrote JavaScript for was my wife, 2012 for her art homepage, making the buttons fly around and all that stuff and so on. And I must say that's why I never ended up in web development. This was the hardest client I ever worked with. So good advice: never ever do that. If you have a wife, become a web developer for them. And then I had a little project, a private web page where I embedded a so-called embedded password manager. So before the time of really web-based password managers and KeyPass, which I'm using now, I had my kind of JavaScript web-embedded password manager, self-developed, running at home. So And I had been reading all these SPA, or not all, some of them, reading into them, and always when I came to the middle part of it, I lost the interest and hope for me ever progressing into SPA development. So yes, I have an underlying opinion and bias. So in my world, JavaScript is the VBA of the internet. Take it or leave it, it has become too viral. Yeah, there are some current JavaScript frameworks, and I see them as what we've called in the zeros in the 2000s as the modern thick clients. So they have taken over the web browsers. You remember in the zeros there was thin client, thick client, and the thin clients were mostly browser-based, and we could say browsers have won the game for most of these applications, and so on. The thick client, the Windows machine and all that stuff, well, yeah, we still use machines, but thick client applications are not so common anymore. If you install some big enterprise-grade application, you usually have a kind of web front end and so on, instead of all kind of thick client Windows UI things. And the current JavaScript frameworks, they lead, in my opinion, to OES, over-engineered systems, which we come in later. So my personal history has shown that thin clients will always win, cost in development, provisioning, and operations. And from my personal point of view in securing also, it's easier to secure one place than securing in 100 different places, or thousands or millions and so on. And a JavaScript framework running in a browser in 100 or 1,000 instances and so on is a problem to secure. So we have HTMX, and it's officially pronounced HTMX. So that is a pain in the ass in my point of view, because when I'm going here and talk and so on, it's a long thing to say. So I have my own way of calling it, and you have to live with it. I call it HTMX. So when I'm talking of HTMX, I mean HTMX, and there are some reasons for that. There is a guy called Carsten Gross, or Gross. Gross is like from German big, so must be a big guy. And he's, I have seen some YouTube videos with him, or about him, where he had some interviews and so on. And well, definitely he has a lot of hats he's mixing in. So he's one man, many hats, and the inventor of HTMX. So, and HTMX, I think, is faster to pronounce. And last but not least, I think the word hat mixing is also best describing what's happening under the hood of HTMX. So I will be hat mixing here around. I thought I should come here and bring some hats and change them during the presentations, but I think that's too late now. So there is an HTMX experiment which I was doing on myself on behalf of Lund&Bendsen and for you here. I had some goals I wanted to achieve. So I wanted to understand HTMX and the single page application development, and I wanted to do zero JavaScript. I wanted to research the claims of HTMX against other JavaScript SPA frameworks, and that's what I'm going to talk about here today. And you will hear I will be very biased, and you can object or not, I don't care. And as a result of it, I also made 2 web apps, which I hope to demonstrate if there's time enough. So one is the Hat-Trick shop, a behavioral prototype, which is based on pure hate OS. So if that says something to you, fine, or I explain it later. And then I have Hugiki, which is a content management system I'm currently developing out in GitHub now, which is a kind of building over something called Hugo, which is a kind of static website generator. So it's in fact for my wife, because she wants a new website and I don't want to do that stuff anymore, so she can do it herself. Yes. And in the same time, I also learned to program Golang. So I wanted to see how does it fit in learning a new language and then do a HTMX in the same time. And I can say 5% of the time was HTMX, the rest was learning Golang. So we have the definition of an SPA, single web page application. Who of you are not knowing anything about SPA or haven't heard the expression before? Looks like everybody knows here. So we are here around 24 persons, so yeah. So how many of you have been involved in development of SPA? Okay, I see 4 of you. How many are thinking of planning to go into SPA development beyond that? 1 extra here, so a little shy, yes. Goody, I'm asking some questions here also, so later when I see the video, I also have an idea about where we are going here. So yeah, I have a lot of abbreviations here. So I have the JS SPAs, which is my definition of JavaScript-centric single web application frameworks. So JS SPAs. So the example of them, and then maybe in historical order, I don't know, or importance order and so on, is React, which is kind of the grandmother of all of these frameworks. It's kind of reused in many of them, or started it up. There's Angular, which Angular was Google and React was Facebook. So it's kind of Fang-based frameworks and so on. Then the Next.js is a kind of derivative of React, or a thing put on top of it. So React has become more a framework. Vue, Svelte, Alpine. Yeah, before I came here last few days, I had a look into Alpine, just which is understood as being a very light one, and I still said, no, don't want to learn it. So I stay in HTMX, in HTMX, yeah. So those who have been having hands up, what kind of these JS SPAs are you using? Angular 2, yeah. React 1, okay. 2, okay. So Next.js, Vue, Svelte, Alpine. Any others? Okay, what is it? Vue. Oh, Vue is it called? Okay. Vue. Good. So yes. Do you feel opinionated about these frameworks? Because, yes, you feel? Okay. Is good, bad, ugly?
I think React is easy to make a fast web page.
Could you repeat?
Yeah. We have a ball together. So
I think if you need a fast web page in a week or a month, I feel React is faster to just get something up and working. Okay, in a month. While Angular is I would use for large teams. Okay. It's easier to navigate with a large system.
So I understood you're a student, so you're starting, so you're not still in the job, but you are used to learn, right?
I have. They are teaching React in the schools, yeah. But I was in the internship with the two. Yeah. Yeah. They taught me React, Angular, and I could see the benefits of both.
Okay. Okay. But it took some time to come into them.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. So they're fighting for who's getting easier to come into, and I think, personally, I think they will never end there. Good. So the situation with the JSPAs technology and explosion and ecosystem, they have grown old. Well, they are rewarming the stuff again and again and so on, but modifying and selling old wine in new bottles. I would say they have many versions and so on going on. They are, when you really want to use them, becoming quite complicated due to age. Very biased to say that, but I think it's probably there's some truth in it. And if you have previous versions, then you go with a legacy and technical debt in your system and so on. So it's hard to change, or you have to do some hard work to upgrade. And what some also call them, they have become conferenceware. So it's something that you have to pull in, people into conferences and so on, and entertain them with. And so I don't know if that is a good sign or a bad sign of quality, but yes. Too many, and to take them also seriously, I think. So the market is like the few big ones and then a lot of small ones, and it's just, they're biting each other quite seriously. And that's why I also experience seeing YouTubes and hearing from people, the people who use them, they are becoming more and more cultish sometimes. I see some people nodding heads here. Which also can be seen that they are trying to honeypot newly started developers quite early. And are you feeling being member of one of these cults? No, he's not being yet. Okay. Yes, so situation is from the HTMX or HTMX perspective, when you see React developers, they are like working on some nuclear device and trying to figure out how things have to be established and so on. Oh yeah, just to say, HTMX is full of memes, so I will pump a lot of memes into your head here, so feel free to laugh. There's the problem of full stack. There's a scarcity of full stack developers who can do both back end and front end. I've been seeing a lot of job applications or job descriptions for full stack and so on. The problem is we have a number of JSPAs, and we have a number of backend frameworks, which means also just to hear from the people working with the SPAs, what backend are you using? Spring, Java, and so on, .NET. Yeah, I see some nodding here. Well, for full stack support, we have a mathematical situation of n times m. So we end up in people becoming hyper specialized, and which is not good for a career in the long term and so on, especially when some stuff goes out. So the other big problem is JavaScript creeps into the server side. Not that I hate JavaScript. There's like Node.js, and it has legitimacy and so on. But JavaScript is not the language that is really designed for server side and so on originally. And well, it has grown a big ecosystem, like all the NPM packages and so on. I think there are around now 2 million packages I last heard. And there have been a lot of stories about Faker.js disappearing, which was a quite used package, typo squatting attacks, so malicious attacks against users of JavaScript modules. And there was also the all NPM package, which made it impossible to retract a Java package and so on. So, and from the 2 million packages, I would say 80% are noob packages. So people just wanted to have their name on GitHub or NPM and so on, and made a not so value-adding package in the end. So maybe that's what quality and quantity not really match here. Then, yeah, saying going server-side, React is, as I heard for newly, going to server-side. So, yeah, good luck with that. So, what will happen? Oh, if they continue with this, probably we will end in a back-end extinction, as some people are fearing. So that's why we have this little meme down there. And people getting vendor locked, maybe, because most new start in front end and then end up in the back end where the gold is. So, has JavaScript become a viral technology? Well, I think yes. It has crossed the domain it was designed for, yeah, and it has used a lot of Fang coding to be used as an argument for being implemented in companies around. And the question is, are we all Fang companies? No. Even big companies, Danske Bank and so on, shouldn't always look into a Fang solution, saying Fang here, Facebook, Amazon and Google and so on. They have their special problems and so on. Yeah?
What does Fang mean?
Yeah, Fang is Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Google, and so on. So this is like kind of the aberration of Silicon Valley's big ones and the frameworks they usually provide to the world as a gift. Could be a poisonous gift also. So my question would be, do you see your company as a Fang-like company, a company that wants to go like a big Fang company and so on? We have heard stories about, yeah, we're going Scrum like, or so like Spotify or what it was. There are some stories and yeah, I don't know. I always take a step back and say, okay, let's look at the local culture and so on. There's so much potential in that. So a lot of Fang. So for me, JavaScript leaves a taste of VBA. So VBA, for those who haven't tried it, Visual Basic for applications which have poisoned all kind of documents since the 90s. So I don't know if you can see it, but yeah, what is going on, and JavaScript just screaming at you. So how does HTMX come into the picture? Well, there are a lot of front-end developers who are dreaming of they finally have the reach to come into the back-end, because all these troublesome back-end developers on the other side, they are like cumbersome. They have to provide some APIs and all that stuff. So for the JavaScript people who lived in the front-end world, the dream is to come into the back-end. But HTMX turns the thing around, so it's a progression, or it's an attack for the backend developer people to come into the front end. Another area also where the JS SPAs have given a problem is what I see in public microservice explosions. So yeah, web browsers become fat clients, and act as central integrators, doing all kinds of JSON and XML and GraphQL and so on, which is not a problem, one would think, but there is a problem in that, because from security point of view, you have suddenly multiple endpoints or multiple issues about securing your endpoints. That's, yeah, it creates complexity. It's creating tight coupling also, because the API versions of your microservices depends influences your front end and so on. Why should that happen? In HTMX things shouldn't go this way. So it's contrary to the decoupling that HTMX is claiming, and people have called this kind of JavaScript, JSON as HTMX solutions and so on. I don't know. Yeah, as I come from security, I see it as an attack vector. All these public-facing microservices for IDR, insecure direct object reference attacks, and then let's call them just XYZ injections that can be done. So somebody can pull a lot of data out of your system, and they are hardly to be secured with web app firewalls and other stuff. The other problem is code complexity. They are complex, these frameworks. They create a lot of code. They are hard to develop and to automate for testing. Now I saw here in the presentation before, it is like using headless web browsers and so on, putting into a testing framework. I think that is a lot of things to put on the top of and so on. Things should be more easier to test, especially for the front end. If you can do it in a unit test without the whole stack of these headless web browsers as a front-end thing and so on, that would be more lean. So another problem is MVX explosion. What is MVX? MVX is, most of you have heard of MVC, Model View Control. There are also other kind of architecture frameworks like MVVM, MVP, Viper, blah, 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 and so on. And all of them are more and more centric to the front end, or going to the front end. Well, I don't want to go into and ask you now. There are problems that it becomes an MVX multi-tier fractality, what I call it. So the multiplication of MVX instances in the solution. So we have our client-side MVX. So on the React or Angular server, there's an MVX architecture, a view, and so on. But in the same time, also server side, like on the web server we have to do, and a microservice we have to do, and all of them have to work in sync with each other. And as the clients put more and more information in and so on, and become more fat and fat, well, things become more and more complex. So the consequences is we have multiple origins of application state. So in the web client, web server, microservices, which one has the authoritative weight, what state is the real state, and so on. So I saw a lot of YouTube videos about people talking about how hard it is to sync things in and out and so on. Yep, thank you. And so this means we have high concurrency in our user sessions and coding of the sessions. I think it's fun to make concurrency coding and so on, probably, and people are running stuff on the client side. So having a lot of small parts in the DOM and so on being synced to each other and so on. I think it's a nice thing. It's fun to program. But it's a hell to debug, it's a hell for the other coders then to review. So how can we simplify things? So, and not to forget, where does the business logic of the application end in this MVX explosion? Because in some situations also people start to over-separate their concerns over multiple tiers, as can be seen. So in this situation, did anybody remember that the web browser, and now I'm talking as a security man, is the weakest and least trustable link or tier in the whole security chain? And if you make it fat and make a lot of decisions and pull in a lot of data there to make the business decisions, that cries for a problem. So conclusion. Full stack means hyper-specialization. JS SPAs become conference where money and time is wasted to foster over-engineering. Complexity is sponsored by JS SPAs. Security and integrity loses against growing. Security and integrity loses against continuous growing complexity. And there's expression, I don't know if you heard it, there's JavaScript fatigue. Anybody of you already feeling JavaScript fatigue? Hands up. Oh, 2 out of 24. TypeScript, yeah, TypeScript is the same class, so TypeScript should also be, yeah, JavaScript, TypeScript. I put them in one box. TypeScript is maybe a little bit better, but still. So what if we had a dedicated tool or language for SPA development operations? Something to reduce the complexity and encapsulate us away from the nitty-gritty details. Well, let's call it like those who do backend coding. We have SQL, for example, for relational databases. Nobody of us is coding directly into a database. I remember in my student time, we generated relational databases and coded directly into them. Nobody does this today. We have kind of query languages, or abstraction layers, and so on. Means also we can lift and shift to another platform if we are not too bound into a certain kind of SQL database provider. And in that area, the language could be a hypermedia language to enable the fancy modifications we want to have on our web page. So we want to have our single web application, single web page application to do fancy stuff, but we wanted to do with a kind of hypermedia language without long coding. Yeah, and something also that would push JavaScript back to what it is originally intended to, being a web browsing language or web browsing support language instead of a full stack leadership language. Well, we have a hypermedia language, and that is HTML. So is it sufficient? Is it sufficient to use that right now? Well, HTML is not SPA hypermedia capable. It has only a few capabilities which are mainly used or developed in the time where we had websites where we change from page to page to page and so on. So it's like links with the anchor, okay, with an anchor tag. We have forms. We can have embedded pages. And that's that. HTML5 has had a kind of standstill, or there was a kind of war between two bodies of standardization, one called W3C and one called WVG. And it's now WVG that is actively taking care of the standard. And it's evolutionary, so HTML5 is still being developed, but people don't recognize that it's a slow evolution and so on. But it has never acquired the stuff for what we wanted in HPA development. So, any opinions on HTML? No. Okay. So can we expand HTML? Yes, we can for SPAs. So it's possible to do an in situ extension by using JavaScript itself. JavaScript again. Like new attributes. I don't know if it can add functionality for new text, but at least for new attributes, I found out. And that's where HTMX comes into, or HTMX, which stands for HTML Extended. So what is HTMX? A hypermedia-driven approach, and it makes overdue and wisely step back from OAS and hypertext flow. So it's reducing the over-engineering of the systems and blah, blah, blah. It's a fundamentally break in the philosophy of doing SPA applications, away from client-based coding, where we do JavaScript, to server-based coding. And it's a pure hate OS approach. But still, it's JavaScript. And it's currently at 14K, and the next version even becomes lesser in size, 10K, because they remove Internet Explorer 11 support. So what is it then? Yeah. First at all, why do you want to change to HTMX? It's a fast stack development tool. And the word fast stack is my own invention, but I think it's purely describes what's happening there. It's fastest to bootstrap a project. Fast development time of the SPA functionality. Fast working in the browser, so not slow as Angular is, and has a fast learning curve. Other reasons: least risk of legacy code accumulation on the client side, no vendor login, and it is itself also extendable, so there are extensions which makes it even more funny, and diminishing the need of JavaScript. So the only reason to have JavaScript in if you really want to have certain kind of funny libraries that are what I call eye candy and cosmetic bling bling stuff and so on, that could be fun to put in, and you don't want to code yourself. Can coexist with the current frameworks, so that's not a problem, and it's a good thing also if you want to migrate from the old to the new. So what do you get from HTMX? Well, simplicity. As I see in this meme here, DB to JSON, JSON to JavaScript to HTML. No, you go directly from DB to HTML. No need to learn any monster JS SPAs, no cult, no intensive learning of JavaScript. Yeah, there are only few cosmetical and functional edge cases where JavaScript comes into the view. And I think for my career, I think I will be having a 90 to 95% chance of not coding any JavaScript after learning HTMX. And reducing the code complexity and the complexity of multiple languages on multiple tiers, because you have no language other than HTML with the HTMX or HTMX extensions on the client side. So, for all of you backend developers, your favorite backend language, you can keep living with that. You can also use your favorite backend frameworks. No reason to go and learn React as a backend system. No reason to go to Node.js and NPM packages. So I think it's a better testable code, less over-separation of concerns, and then Carsten Gross also comes into the concept of location of behavior. I don't want to go into deep with that, but it's readable on the HTMX or HTMX website. And all backend developers are now technically full-stack developers. You can control the front end. It's so easy. And not that. What I'm showing in a few minutes, you will become fast stack developers. You can even develop a prototype of an application before you have a backend to run it on. What can you lose by HTMX? Bad memories and fears, stress, black box debugging in the browser. We have seen here the headless web browser. There are some places not to use HTMX. These are heavy client-side data models, applications like web browser games, your own Google Maps or web-based Excel. If you do a lot of caching and so on of data and you have expensive requests and so on, lambdas running in the backend, then probably it's better to keep it in the JS SPAs. If you provide applications, web applications to people using mobile phones in with offline areas, no signal, no connectivity / high latency, then it's probably better to keep the old way. Yes, and so on and so on. Yeah?
But don't you think this kills your straw man? Because these are the use cases that an SPA was invented to solve.
Yeah, but then you don't need them in all the other applications. Right now they are in all the other applications where they are not needed.
It can be true that SPAs are overkill for lots of things, yeah.
Yeah. So they are overkill, OES. Yep.
An additional question here. Maybe you use HTMX even in these cases in order to get the HTOS server interactions and definitions.
Yep.
So maybe you don't lose it, but you can keep the other client-side stuff as an option.
Yeah, that's a question about how the application being designed and so on. So, how to get ahead with HTMX or HTMX? Well, forget any code thinking on the client side. So, as the image indicates, have a good drink and burn your brain cells on the on JavaScript. It's as easy as inserting a reference to the HTMX library. Change your mind to HTOS thinking. And the HTOS is started by this guy, or I don't remember the name of him right now, but some of you do. And probably do what he recommended at the start and really using in REST and so on. What you have to do is to HTMX enable certain tags with HTMX attributes. So they start all with HX dash. Add a matching and adding matching UI routes and HTML renderings on your server-side code, and that's that. So when the application runs, client sends a HTTP request, server responds with HTML, client inserts the HTML response into the document. So instead of getting a whole page downloaded, you're just getting fragments downloaded. I see we are going to lose some time here, not much time, so I don't want to go deep into HTOS. You can read it also yourself on Wikipedia. Well, the classical way of HTOS was like retrieving, making REST calls, getting JSON or XML, and then everything has to be processed on the client side, which becomes quite a big work and code. As we do the HTOS constraint way of HTMX, you only get HTML fragments back. I call them heads instead of saying HTML fragments. So you get these heads, and yeah, you put them into your page, or HTMX puts them into your page. So it's a missing link we haven't had in the many last years. So let's look at the flow again. HTMX enabling your tags. All HTMX enabled tags can initiate any kind of hypermedia activities on the web server. you have an extension of all the HTTP verbs. You can use not only post and get as usual, but you can use put, patch, and delete. The heads are returned, and the head mixing is done by HTMX by putting the heads into your web page and gluing it the right places, so in the web page DOM. And the web page is rendered, and you can even configure how the rendering is going, so you can do some definitions which are called animations, either by CSS or also in HTMX, or you can use other JavaScript libraries if you like some animations there. So the solution HTMX comes in is not more like putting some attributes in your code. So let's have a demonstration. Now I have 15 minutes left for the demonstration, so let's go ahead. Boom, 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 boom. And I have to put it on the just this. No. Wait. Here it comes. Okay, I think I have to change the screen settings for that. Exit. Full screen mode, and let's see. No, I have to do it on Windows here. Extend, duplicate the displays. Excuse me for not being a good web designer and so on. That's what I can come up with a hat shop, selling hats. It's called the Hat Trick Shop. It has various ways of choosing your product. So it's about hats. So we have a kind of gender matching. So let's start with a unisex. They have unfortunately no unisex hats there, but we can get some answer back. Oh, no. We can have buy a hat for the wife. So let's put that into the shop here. So here we have our current shopping cart already. So one hat for my wife. And because I'm also keen on having a hat, let's have a green hat here. That is also coming in. Fine enough. Yes, maybe also a yellow hat would be also fine. So my shopping cart has now 3 hats inside. Goodie. Let me go back to my presentation. "12 minutes left. Now a question to you all. How much did I spend on making that little shop app? Just a guess. How many hours? How many days? How many months? I'm a total noob. Last time I did HTML is 10 years ago. I had to relearn a little bit CSS and HTML and so on, but then HTMX.
2 days.
2 days? Any other guesses? Let's say 5 days. Nobody? Okay. 4 hours. 4 hours. 20% of the time was learning HTMX, HTMX trial error. It's 10 tags I have HTMX enabled. It's 1 page and 13 hats, fragments coming in. The rest is spent on CSS learning, SVG and HTML, picture search for the hats and licensing, and some brainstorming. And now another thing. If you are, come on, where did I have the? When you look at the shop here, can you see something? there's no server behind. Oh, wait a sec. That's the wrong one here. This one is the right one. This is the right one. There is no server behind. This is a behavioral prototype. You have been fooled. So it's a web application, front-end web application, but there's no backend running on it. I have just made an index file and a lot of fragment files, and I have put the HTMX references to these files. And I can do a lot of, you could say, simulation how the application is running without having a backend server. So in your situation, you can use this already as a tool to go out to your customer, to your, no backend. So it's not functional in the sense of functionality, because if we look into that, there are no prices here. The prices are just dummy codes and so on. That's something the backend does. But all the thing happening in the front end, we can already code even before we have the backend running. So we have this prototype we can showcase to the customer, to the user, to the product owner, and we can source control it and put it in, and we can later take it out of our source control, and we can copy paste that into our server's templates and so on. So we can emulate behavior. So it's HTML with HTMX referencing to static files. The only thing is, doing this, I have to start the separate web browser instance with reduced core security. So there are some tips. Yeah, writing. My experience now, I made another application also, where I started learning Go and this Hugiki thing there. And I started out coding the whole application, and when I finally came to the front end, I said, okay, now I have to do the HTML and HTMX stuff and so on. That's too late. Start making a behavioral prototype, just as static HTML files. So you can sit down, as I said, with your customer, users, PO, do a source control of it, use the the behavior prototypes, examples for your application event handling. So I put it out on GitHub for everybody to download. So what can we do? What are the limits? There are some limits. If you go back again, the head shop has no. The head shop has some limits, because it can only add things here now. It cannot remove things, or it can remove, but then things become quirky and so on. But what you can do is, while you're working, you can also make your prototype multimodal, or making alternative flows. So we had the flow of buying a green hat here, so going down and picking a green hat. Now I have the green hat here. If I click on the green hat, there would come a new green hat down here as a second green hat. But I have set some maybe we should give it a little bit. I've been clicking down here, so I changed the modus of the prototype, and if I clicked right, then there should not come a new green hat. But now there comes an alternative situation, which in our situation says, we went out of stock while you were shopping. Sorry for that. Yep, and we don't need to see this. Yes.
Do I have 5 minutes?
Yes, thank you. Okay, I'm only halfway through, so usually me. Let's have a look short in how that works. And let's take a take this one here. Let's going back. So if I click this one here, there should be something happening. Shopping cart, yes. Goodie. I said that you can put some extra text to your, or extra attributes to your tags. In that situation, I have the image tag, and I gave it a hxget, which more or less says where should I get, where should I send the request to. So in that situation, it would be HTTP blah 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 my server or something else. In that, in the current situation, it only references a local file, and these attributes are like, for example, here saying make a GET request. The browser is smart enough to say, okay, I cannot GET request, so I load the file directly. I can define the trigger of things, and I can define a target. A target means like a placement where I put it. So I have an ID tag further down, which is called shopping cart list. So let's go into here. I have shopping cart title, I have shopping cart list. And shopping cart list has a lot of other things here. In the shopping cart list, there tag, we can swap out or we can add the new content that comes back from the server. So that's what the HX swap explains. Yes. Goodie. I think that is that for that demonstration. Let's see, anything more? Yeah, I did the dive here, and I think best is to go into, no. Let's open it. If you want to learn HTMX or HTMX or have a look into that, there's a website called HTMX.org, which gives them more detailed descriptions, and it's divided up in some docs here. It's the best way to start with the docs in the introduction, and then go over to the examples. And there are a lot of examples. And while I was working on that, they are just growing. Yeah. Yeah, it can. There are two ways. It shows you can integrate to another JavaScript, making your tabs, or you can use the hate OS approach. Let's go into that here. So, how does it here? Yeah, here's the demo. So these are the tabs coming here. But how does the code look? The code looks like that here. So class. And we have the different tabs and so on. And when they are selected and so on, things are sent to the server. Server comes back with a reply saying, replace the tab content, as you see here. Control, selected, class, yeah. Yes, let's take a look into what we else have here. Oh, only 3 slides left, 2 minutes left. No, 1 minute left. Any time left? Nope, sorry. You cannot have a look into Hugiki, but that's for another time. So I want to say thank you to you all. And if there are any questions, we have still a minute left.
Or you can get up here. We will first of all say thank you very much, Sascha.
Yep.